When our core wounds meet the physical world, it offers us the opportunity to heal from the trauma and the emotional wear and tear we have endured in this lifetime. How many core wounds are there to heal? In this podcast series, we will talk about them all, healing the emotional core wounding, including the mother wound, the primal wound, so we can walk in our medicine to be the healers that we all are. Join podcast host, confidence coach Susan Axelrod with her very special guest, Kornelia Stephanie. This podcast is one for the ages, living beyond the core wounds.
Hello, friends. Welcome to the part 2 episode of our conversation on the core wound of betrayal. I said in the last episode, and it has been resonating with me, and I want to say it again. I don't know if there is a soul alive who has ever not felt betrayal of some kind or another. They may not have experienced what they call the big betrayal in a relationship or whatever. But if you think about the idea of what it feels like to be betrayed, then you can imagine how prolific this core wound is. We are discussing the emotional processing of these core wounds, and this is based on this book by my dear friend Kornelia Stephanie that is called Peace, the Flip Side to Anger. In the book, she has something called the peace practice. Now, we know about a yoga practice. We know about workout practice. I started studying Qigong recently. Qigong is all about a practice. But one of the things I love about Kornelia's work is the implied suggestion that there could be something like a peace practice, P-E-A-C-E. Are you in the practice of peace? These discussions that we're having on living beyond the core wounds are so deep. Honestly, I decided to sponsor and host this podcast because of my own work with Kornelia, because of my own evolved learning around emotional processing, my own evolved understanding of what these core wounds are. And as you can see, this is my book with all the notes and things that I use it as a resource myself. In the peace practice is something Kornelia calls out that I have used in my coaching. I've been using myself for decades, and that is journaling. I want to invite you to grab a paper and pen. In fact, I have my journal right here next to my desk. And in my work with Kornelia or other people, I actually use my own journal for some of my writings. And so I want to encourage you today to grab a pen and paper and do what it takes to help yourself process these conversations. My dear friend Kornelia, hello, welcome. How are you today?
Hello, Susan. Thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be here with you again.
You know, these conversations, like I said, are so deep for me. I can feel them in my heart, but that's partly because I want to be. So one of the things I wanted to start our discussion with today, Kornelia, is something we did talk about it in our last episode. These are my notes. You know, I take up my own notes during our conversation. And we did talk about it. And then you and I also had a recent conversation. And in the context of betrayal, perhaps especially, and that is courage and being courageous. When I was looking at my notes from our last episode, it says right here at the bottom of my page, it says requires courage to ask yourself the questions and maybe to face the answers.
What requires courage?
This processing and
Oh,
this
yeah.
facing your, to live beyond the core wounds, the processing requires courage in part to face the answers I'm asking.
I see. Yeah.
Yes.
So, we talked about how important it is to heal the emotional core wounding of our past, right? Like if we have always felt betrayed by life, by a partner, betrayed by God, uh, betrayed by our parents, or whatever the betrayal energy is. Until we heal or release that energy, we may continuously keep attracting more experiences like that until we consciously awaken to see, oh, I this is definitely something that I want to heal from. This is definitely something that I don't want to experience anymore. I don't want to experience feeling betrayed by life, feeling betrayed by partners, feeling betrayed in relationships, feeling betrayal, because that energy of betrayal is such a heavy, dark, dense energy, right?
Yeah.
And so the being you decide that you don't want this anymore, and that you want to live your life in trust. So when this was my process as well, because I wanted to live on this planet in trust. I wanted to be able to trust myself. I wanted to be able to trust the choices that I make every single day when I'm living my life and taking quantum steps, and that I want to be able to trust in the choices that I make, that I want to be able to trust God, that I want to be able to trust life. That was really important to me. I did not want to be, you know, preoccupied by betrayal energies, that really fully owning the trust vibration in my life. And so that takes courage, like you said. The other thing that you said, which when you opened the show with your journal, did you know, Susan, that we can experience dopamine highs when we are actually writing in our journal, that is actually a dopamine hit when we are writing in our journal, which is why it's so important to journal.
I did not know that actually. I actually study a lot about dopamine and serotonin and the cortisol that,
Yeah.
spikes. And no, I honestly don't think that I did know that journaling, but now that actually makes a lot of sense to me. So I didn't know that.
So can you imagine? I mean, here we are. I know that you're a big journaler. I'm a big journaler. We've been journaling for years, right? And part of that has to do with, the reward. I think that we get from revealing what it is that's important to us. That's part of that. I heard that in a presentation where someone was talking about dopamine and talking about how journaling affects that as well, because of the reward that we get from journaling, and what a powerful practice that is as well, because you're revealing yourself.
That is very interesting. I'm going to actually be thinking about that. In my life transition, where I had several moves, one of the things that I brought forward with me is all my journals. I've been making careful decisions about things and whatnot and stuff. And but in my closet, I have my box. If there's 25 journals, there's at least that many. So that makes a lot of sense to me. And then, as I mentioned, it's in your in your chapter on the peace practice. Bringing peace for yourself, that dopamine from the revelation. I couldn't agree more that allowing it out, revealing it, the idea of the journaling that you do with yourself is like you could be courageous in using journaling to speak out your betrayal, privately before you go, further, you know, to maybe with speak it out with others.
Yeah, and I think it's really important, for people that are listening to this particular podcast about betrayal, that you watch the first one, because there we talked about your emotional energy field and where betrayal is, and that once you heal that you are now living, that you want to live in trust, that you want to live your life in trust, and that you're installing that uh, energy into your field now. This is the vibration that you're emitting. If you remember, Susan, we had, you know, we were showing this as, you know, there, the betrayal could have been in, oops, I
Sorry
don't know.
about that.
That's okay. You know, the betrayal energy was in your field, and then you're emitting. So this right here was what we were talking about here. That's the energy of betrayal.
Yeah.
And that, you know, and basically then you were emitting frequencies out so that you are sending that energy out, and now you're going to attract experiences that are going to support you to have that experience of betrayal.
This was so important because that diagram, and I wrote it on my paper when you shared it last week.
Yeah.
I wrote the two different diagrams where you know, you're in the center of that field, right?
Mhm.
There's you and what's coming out off you. And this is what I've learned from you and what I've experienced myself. What I want our listeners and viewers to understand is, you know, what you're feeling inside, you know, you're emitting. And what you're teaching us is that you're attracting, and you just said it before, if you have always felt betrayed, you may be continually attracting betrayal.
Yeah,
And
you will continue to attract it until you personally decide, I'm done.
mm,
I'm done with this. I don't want to experience this anymore. It's like, why would you want to continue on having anything that you want to change in your life? But on an emotional level, what you know, the emotional experience is about for you when you're feeling betrayed, because it brings up a lot of pain. It's heavy, and you, these are trauma experiences that you continue to have until you decide, I'm done with this. I'm not going to have this anymore. That's the reason why when I cleared betrayal out of my life, and now and started living my life in trust, which is the opposite of betrayal. The core wound of betrayal, the opposite of betrayal is trust. Because the reason why I came up with that is because what is it that I wanted to experience in my relationships? What is that? So, well, I wanted to experience, why did this person betray me? Why did this situation betray me? Why did whatever it was showing itself to me, why did I feel betrayed? And what is it that I really want? Well, what I really wanted was to experience trust. I want to trust you. So me projecting that energy out onto the person, I want to trust you, reflecting it back to me, I want to trust you, Kornelia. Reflecting it even back further, I want to trust source. I want to trust my divine. I want to trust God. I want to trust in the universe. I want to trust. So I made the decision that I want to live my life in trust, regardless of what's happening around me in the world, but that I want to bring the trust instead of bringing an energy, emitting an energy of betrayal. This is what we mean by living beyond the core wounds. And we are here in the new earth. We are here embodying the new consciousness. We are here in this new energy of how we want to co-create our new earth, how we want to co-create our new world. Well, I don't want to continue on co-creating our new earth, our new world, feeling betrayal.
right. You know, I want to just hit on this business of where you can sort of sit there and say, you know, that you'll continue to attract that until you personally decide, I wrote in quotation marks, I am done with this. This is where courage comes up a little bit, where you have to want to be done with it. You have to see that you may have been living your life in a certain way. You can do some excavating work to say, is this true of how my lens, as I call it, and what I'm calling in? And can I really just be done with it because I say I'm done with it? But I just want to remind our viewers and our listeners that all of this that we're sharing with you in this entire podcast series is about what we call emotional processing. So is it as miraculous as saying I am done with it and you can be? Yes, the answer is 100% yes. I teach and I believe that mindset transformation could be immediate, but mostly we're human. And so there's this processing, which might include journaling for you and might include courageously looking at yourself and the way you view the world. And like Kornelia says, if you have this sense, why is this always happening to me? Why am I always being betrayed like this? Then that would be the indicator, is that okay with you? Are you done with this? Are you ready to live in trust?
You could say that I was reborn again, that I've given birth to myself again. And in this incarnation that I've given birth to, I'm only going to live in trust, because that's what the divine truth is. That is what my divine's birthright is. That is what my choosing is. So I, you know, gave birth to myself again, and living in trust is how I want to live. So
Mm.
I think we talked about it in the last podcast as well, that once I healed and released the energy of betrayal through the deep inner work of journaling and releasing and letting go, this I'm complete with this. I do not need to experience this again. I do not need to see this again in my life. That I now want to live in trust. And basically it's trust in myself, trust in God, trust in the universe, trust in life. No matter what is happening, I'm going to bring that. And I like to use the reference of Jesus, because Jesus was not one that was walking around talking about how he was betrayed. He wasn't. Jesus was walking around talking about the oneness that he had with God. And he wasn't talking about betrayal. He was talking about an energy of trust. That's the energy I'm talking about. Uh, that you decide yourself that I want to live my life in trust, not in betrayal. And once you release the old and imprint the new and choose the new, then you will now have life experiences to where you're going to have an experience where you're going to be, it's going to present you. Do you trust yourself or not? The choices that you're making, the partners that you're drawing in, the people, how you're showing up in events, how you're showing up. Are you feeling positive and trusting in life? That's part of that embodiment process. That the daily practice, it takes time, right? Then we make the word for the year, I am trust. I'm living my life in trust. It's all of that, right? But that you are basically now operating from that template, where before you were operating from a template of betrayal. But in your conscious mind, in your mind, you were always wishing, wanting, trusting relationship, trusting life, trusting yourself. Well, now by releasing the betrayal, you actually have the opportunity to show up in areas of where you might not trust and make a different choice.
This is so good. Also, I feel this resonance around my work as a confidence coach. Often, what happens is that I do help people bring themselves into this place of self-trust again. And that's when you can feel more confident. Confidence comes from self-trusting, but honestly, Cornelia, it's early on in the lives as children where that self-trust is like taken away from us.
Yes.
It really is. It's taken away from us for all the reasons of in childhood. I do want to say that in Cornelia's book, the peace practice that I referenced is a 21-day practice. And it's all here for you in the book, day 1, day 2, etc. There's exercises and all, readings to reflect. And in the 21-day peace practice, week 1, day 1, it says, whoops, you can't see it, feeling grounded. feeling grounded. Week 1, day 1 is feeling grounded. And what happens when, as we discussed in the last episode, when you are willing to courageously, and I wrote it down, sit and be in it. In this case, we're talking about the core wound of betrayal, identifying it, believing it, realizing that you're in it, sit and be in it, really feel it. And then I wrote down, really be in it, allow yourself to really be in that space. Then the peace practice, the 21-day practice, the living beyond the core wounds, leads you into a feeling of being more grounded.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's what you want. It's more grounded and feeling more embodied with the energy that you want to bring and be. Basically, it's like this with anything, like the world is an inside job, peace is an inside job, love is an inside job, trust is an inside job. It's all an inside job because we have been for so long been looking outside of ourselves, looking outside to the relationships, to whatever, to give us something that we first had to cultivate within ourselves. And developing this level of trust in your new earth, in your new body, in this new time, that's where I want to live. And so it's up to me. So the relationships that I have today and that I've had for the last 7 years or 8 years are relationships of trust that I've cultivated in my inner circle. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not people that will come along and that will try to so and so and so, but I'm the one that's bringing the trust. I'm the one that is putting up the boundaries. I'm the one that's in charge of my energy field. And I'm the one that's living in this life and choosing and deciding that I am in trust.
I mean, that's it, folks. That's it, folks. I'm the one. I'm the one. I'm the one. Now, we feel often like, it's not in my power. It's not in my control. I can't do that. I've tried to do this. But the inside job that Kornelia refers to, and we also call it the inner work, is where you come, and she used the word embodiment, and where you come back into your body. For me, my lens is confidence, where you feel more confident in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And what I have on my LinkedIn says soul confidence leads to legacy. When you are living your legacy, when you're living in that I am state that Kornelia just voiced out. And if you are listening or watching this discussion and you ask yourself, do I trust myself?
Mm-hmm.
Can I trust myself? Do I? And ask yourself these questions when you come into a difficult time, as I surely have been. Most humans are, and I have been myself. I have had this conversation, Kornelia, with myself many times. Do I make good choices? Can I trust my choices that I make? Do I trust myself to do the best for myself?
Do you
Or
trust God? Do you trust the divine? Even because again, that is the place where I ended up taking it to all the way, right?
Mhm.
Is do I trust? Because a lot of people with all of the religious programming that has, played out in the world feel betrayal, that we track it all the way back, feeling betrayed by their religion, feeling
Mm.
betrayed by God. So if you're going to really release and heal all of this, the relationship that you have with your universal power, wherever that is, it's the divine, it is uh, Judaism, it is a Christian, whatever it is, but do you trust God? Do you trust that divine? Do you trust that? And because you and that are one, You are not separate, which is a core wound that we'll be talking about in future podcasts, separation. We've never been separate. We've only been trained and conditioned to believe that we were separate. We are at one. There is
Mm.
no separation. So do you trust your divine? Do you trust God? Do you trust your relationship with the divine? That's, so those would be the questions to ask as well.
Mm. And Kornelia and I do a lot of different kinds of work together. And we were just recently having a discussion about this idea of the use of the word God or faith or whatever it is. And I love it when you say the divine. And do I really trust God? And I find that people who have some kind of faith in something outside of themselves, a deep and abiding faith, and then there is a level of comfort there. But the way I work with other people in this area as well who talk in the same language of oneness.
Yes.
There's this infinite loop synergy of, I am God, God is me. And, together we are all source.
Right.
And that's like source. That's like, the inner
So do you
core.
trust source?
Right.
Do you trust God?
Right.
Do you trust the divine? So if your answer is a hell yes, a resounding yes, yes I do, yes I am, then that's where you're going to be making choices from. And then when life happens, which it does, you're always going to be showing up in when life happens in trust,
Mm.
because that's you
That's
see.
yes, I do. That's the thing. And this is why we're going to go over this and over this. We just have another minute or two, but in our next episode, we're going to be talking about the core wound of abandonment. But with this one, it's the way you show up. If you have these perseverating thoughts, why does this always happen to me? I'm always betrayed. They're always betraying me. She betrayed me. He betrayed me. They betrayed me. Then to identify this for yourself and really realize that that's the field that you're walking in.
And that's the field that you're managing and that you're vibrating. And so I
exactly.
ask you, what field do you want to vibrate in? A field of betrayal or a field of trust? So I made the choice and decision early on that I don't, by asking myself, what do you want to feel here in this relationship? I really want to trust these people. I really want to trust myself. I really want to trust. I really want to bring the trust into my experiences. And this is why today, Susan, people hire me to reclaim their life and live their life in trust, and live their life in trust and in business, and in order to operate from that new paradigm, because they are the paradigm. They are the ones that it's up to you. It's up to them. So
Well,
you
Cornelia,
right now that there isn't going to be anyone in my life, in this incarnation, in this lifetime, uh, that's going to betray me, because I don't have that in my field of, I've already cleared and released that out. So my life is lived in trust, and that is that.
and that is that. Cornelia, this is why we're doing this podcast series. This is why I'm sponsoring it. This is why I'm hosting it, because I myself have been served by this work that you do. So how do people get in touch with you?
Well, people can send me a text. They can text me at this number, 360-941-5783, and start the conversation about, you want to have a session with me, or something that you might be struggling with. There's that. You can find me on social media. You can also find me in the KS Media Group app that you can find in your Google store, in your Play Store. And there's information there as well on how to get in contact with me. But the easiest way is just text me at 360-941 5783. And we can begin the process, because 1 to 2 sessions to install the new I am trust, I live in trust, releasing betrayal out of your life. That's one of the ways to begin.
Well, one of the things that I love about this is that this work transformation can happen quickly. People don't think it can, but it can when you're working with someone who is in ascension, like Kornelia is. And I just honestly, truly can't say enough how much I want people to just text you and say, I'd like to talk to you about the core wounds. Just say, I want to talk to you about core wounding, or,
Yeah. Or I want to heal betrayal in my life.
Exactly.
It's as simple as that. And in 1 or 2 sessions, there's a new, I'm going to show you how to do it. We're going to do it together. I'm going to show you how, because it's all about you releasing it and you choosing this new I am trust paradigm, this new I am trust template, and that is where you're going to be operating from. So this is why we call these podcasts Living Beyond the Core Wounds, because that's where I'm living now. I've been living beyond the core wounds now for many years. And so I can't relate to the pain anymore, the pain I used to have. That's why I can tell you it's definitely possible. And now I'm living in the opposite of those wounds. Now I'm in trust. I trust myself. I trust my divine. And so can you.
Amen.
Amen.
All right, Kornelia, I can't wait for our next discussion. I can't wait for the next episode. We're going to be talking about the core wound of abandonment. I will see you then, Kornelia. Thank you so much.